Hi, welcome back to a new episode of Shut Your Face. Yes, I have kind of changed some things around, but it's still just as cool. Anyhow, if you're not a member of our Patreon, what are you doing? It's really cool. So head over there and become a member so you can get early access. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and let us begin.
Hey, it's Brianna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's like we haven't spoken in a day.
It's been a whole day, right?
Well, no, I'm really glad you're taking the time to do this on a Saturday night. That's really cool. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and get on into this. Yeah, where and why did World Ranch Horse Association start? How long has this been going on? And what made you start it?
World Ranch Horse Association started in 2019. I'm in Arizona, just outside of Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
What made me start it? Basically, I felt a need for a place that people could go and compete and feel like they were welcome, regardless of the level of rider they are or regardless of what kind of horse they had. A place where they could take that horse and take themselves and feel welcome and feel like they had a place that they could fit in with other people of the same caliber, of the same kind of desire to go have fun, but show your horse and be competitive, but have fun doing it. And I think that's something that the industry has lost along the way over the years, and we need that.
Yeah, you know what? That's funny you brought that up because it has kind of got. I don't think. Well, maybe the Hollywood fame I think has played a big part in that because that increased pricing, and when you increase pricing, you attract different people and new people into the industry. So I completely agree with that. I think that has gotten a little, especially around 2020, 2021, and even on to 2022. I've noticed like the horse industry lost its, what's the right word? It wasn't very welcoming. It wasn't very nice.
It hasn't been very nice. It has been exclusive instead of inclusive. There has become so much specialization that I think a lot of the do-it-yourself people feel like they've kind of been pushed out of the industry because unless you have a trainer, unless you're spending thousands of dollars a month, that type of person is having a hard time to go somewhere and compete. WRHA has provided, World Ranch Horse Association is WRHA, has provided a place for those people. And people are moving into the ranch industry like nothing you've ever seen before. For that very reason, I think, because they feel like there's a place they could go and compete and be comfortable in their own skin on the horse that may not even have registration papers, but that's okay.
Right. Well, I was going to ask you that. So what are the credentials for someone to show in WRHA? I mean, obviously there's no particular breed.
There's no particular breed. There's no ownership requirements. If your Uncle Joe has a horse that he'll let you use, you can jump on him and come and show with us. You don't have to own the horse. The horse doesn't have to be registered. We don't track breeds. We've had mules. We've had Mustangs. You name it. We've had just about every kind of equine, rideable equine competing at some of our events. It's refreshing because what they're doing is they're coming out, they're having fun, there's opportunities to win some pretty nice awards, and they go home and they're happy. There's a camaraderie among the exhibitors. They're out there helping each other. They're cheering for each other. It's just a completely different game than what we've been seeing at the typical horse shows that we're used to.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these awards, and they are nice. I mean, you've got saddles, you've got buckles, you've got some nice tack, you've got all kinds of stuff. And would it be safe to say that this association has continued to show growth over the years since 2019, or more and more people coming?
Yep, since 2019. So we're about to move into our 6th year. Mm-hmm. Tremendous growth. I'm going to say the first 3 years, baby steps. We were just introducing ourselves to people, and really started strong in the West, but we're moving our way east. And we probably are, well, not probably, we are active in close to 30 states right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there are WRHA approved shows in close to 30 states. We're about 1,000. Well, we're getting close to 1,000 members strong. We have a world show once a year.
Well, 19 was. I mean, that was 19 would be a rough start for anybody.
That was a rough start.
Well, that was when COVID happened. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You couldn't even, hell, people were lucky to even have a show.
Exactly. Well, you know what? When the weekend that COVID started, I was putting on a show in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, wow.
And went out there to put this show on, and literally halfway through the show, the city of Los Angeles came to the showgrounds to shut the showgrounds down.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it caught us off guard. It caught us, wringing our hands. What are we going to do? What do we do? Well, they let us continue our show, but from that weekend on, COVID had shut the country down.
Right, yeah.
So 2019 was not a great year, and 2020 wasn't a lot better, actually. COVID took a toll.
Absolutely. I don't think some people, regardless of whether your stance on believing if it's real or not, political or not, none of that matters. It still had an effect. I mean, I even saw it. We had people, placing orders for awards. We wouldn't they would say don't put any dates on them because we don't know if the show's going to happen, and then if the show doesn't happen, we'll be able to use them here, and then if we don't use them here, things were last minute, venues were getting shut down last minute, it was out of everybody's hands. It was crazy for everybody.
It was an interesting period to get through, to say the least, especially with the horse industry and the horse shows, and having to cancel or trying to decide if you can cancel or if you needed to just reschedule or what to do. It was a tough one.
Yeah. Now, you said you are based out in Arizona, but you were putting on shows in Los Angeles. So how wide do you kind of travel for this? I mean, if the base is in Arizona, you said you guys are in 30 states. Where exactly were are these affiliate clubs within WRHA?
There are affiliate clubs. We have an affiliate in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
We are just setting up an affiliate in Canada right now as we speak.
Oh, cool.
And then you don't have to have a club to put on an approved show, so the local 4-H group could make their show WRHA approved if they wanted to. It's very simple, and that's one of the other things that we've tried to do is to make it an easy process, not only for the exhibitors, but for the show managers, the show producers. It gives them a way to bring in more people, to introduce the ranch discipline to their show, and those people can come in, and there's 2 or 3 different avenues that they can latch onto for year-end awards. We have a program called the Outrider Program, and it's called TOP for short, TOP, where it's regional based. You could live in North Dakota and show in your own little county and earn year-end awards for WRHA without going out of your region, without of your state, just because you may not want to travel, but you may want an opportunity to win some awards, and you can do that with our TOP program.
That's really nice.
That's
really nice.
It's been something that we can give to our exhibitors no matter where they live. There's 8 regions in the United States plus Canada, and I believe we have exhibitors in every region earning points towards the year-end awards program. So it's really nice to see that. It's nice to see that what we're offering is something that people want.
Well, yeah, because I was just sitting here thinking, I've talked to a handful of people that I could definitely say one of the hardest things to kind of hump to overcome with not just growth, but stability within a club and the members and horses and all that good stuff is the fact that you have to travel so far and wide, and it takes money to travel, it takes time to travel, and horses is not necessarily everybody's 9-to-5 money. It's not what pays for it. The main job has to, so you have to accommodate that. So that's really cool that you offer that. That's really cool.
Well, it's become very obvious that if you go back to the 70s, 80s, even the 90s, traveling across 3 or 4 states to get to a show was nothing. You didn't think twice about it. It's changed. The whole landscape of the economy, the demographics, the horse shows, that has changed even in the last 10 years. People don't have that disposable income anymore for whatever reason. So I think if we don't go to them and offer them something that is workable and doable for them, we're going to lose them. They're going to leave the industry and go somewhere else.
Yeah, because if it's, like in a bad economy, just like everybody was kind of talking with the presidential election and the economy and stuff like that, it basically boils down to, feeding your family and getting your bills paid is going to be kind of more important than anything else.
Exactly. Everybody has priorities, and going to a horse show may not be high on the priority list. But if we can make it easier for them to go out on the weekend and have a fun time with their horse and kind of forget the stresses of the rest of the world, then we've done the right thing.
Right. I think that's awesome. Now let me ask you this a little bit about yourself. Have you grown up just around horses your whole life, or did you get into it later on? How did horses come about in your life?
I think I was probably born on a horse. I'm not sure, but I feel like I was. I have 3. There's 4 of us total. I have a sister and 2 brothers. We grew up on a farm. My dad was a farmer. We grew up on a farm with horses, pigs, goats, cattle. My dad grew alfalfa and cotton when we grew up. Agriculture is in my veins. I was the only child of the 4 of us that cared anything about horses, though, because I think I must have been the black sheep or something. I don't know. But, horses are in my veins. I don't know how to describe it, but I've had horses. I've had the Breyer models. I think when I was a kid, I had over 100 Breyer model horses displayed around my bedroom and around the house. And it's just something that, how you either are born with it or you're not?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was with me. So I've had horses all my life. I started showing when I was probably 6 or 7 on a little pony that probably didn't have a clue what we were supposed to do, but I didn't know either, so we just did our thing.
Those are probably the best times, though.
You know what? That makes a horseman out of a person. When you have to get on something that isn't broke and isn't trained and get through a show. And I didn't know any better. I really didn't.
Yeah.
But you evolve and you learn, and I started serious showing like actually knowing what I was doing in the probably 70s. I actually started training horses for other people when I was 17.
Oh, cool.
So I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but it's been a good 50 plus years of horses.
That's a lot of experience. That's experience that I'm sure people would pay to have because, like I was talking about it the other day actually, horses is just one of those sports. It's one of those things that you'll never know all of it. It's like impossible to know all of it.
Yeah, it is. And it's not, it's always changing. It's not something you learn overnight, but it's not something, like you said, that you'll never know it all because it's always changing. There's always more. Right. They're finding more genetics. They're finding more about DNA. They're finding more different training methods, newer training methods. There's just always more to learn, and some people soak it up like a sponge, and those are the people that continue in the industry and make a name for themselves. And it takes talent too. It takes talent and a good horse to get to the top of this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I 110% agree. Now, let me ask you this. So when you were growing up around horses and training and all that kind of stuff, what did you have a career outside of horses? And then I know that you kind of mentioned that this is it's grown so much that it's taken kind of over. You're having to be more attentive to it. There's more time to it. Is there another part of your life that's a career that's outside of horses, or is it just always been horses?
It's mostly always been horses. I did have a career, I guess, that paid the bills for probably 20 years of that time, but I worked in procurement. I did government contracts for purchasing for government agencies.
Oh, cool.
Which was a good time to experience that type of career. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of business techniques, the do's and the don'ts of purchasing, not just, it applies to all parts of your life, not just buying pencils and erasers, so I could put that knowledge to work even in the industry that I'm in now. But right now, basically all I do is World Ranch Horse Association. We're growing it. We're spreading the word. We're creating shows and opportunities. Like I said, the ranch horse industry is probably one of the largest and fastest growing disciplines in the horse show area.
I completely concur. I mean, we were even, you just kind of dabbled on it a minute ago. It creates an atmosphere that is, it's not less competitive because it's very, very competitive. I mean, there's some nice riders and horses and some insane competitions out there, but I think it brings forth an environment that is easier for people to be in and be around and succeed in versus your, typical horse environment, which can be kind of not only mentally strenuous on people that are showing, but can just be very stressful. I think that's why it's fast. I think that's why it's growing so fast. Could you agree with that?
I agree with that 100%. I started putting on horse shows probably 15, 16 years ago. And I'll never forget why I started doing the horse shows. I had been to a show, a local one, just to compete. I was showing a horse and finished the show and driving home. I was thinking, why am I doing this? Because it wasn't that fun.
Right.
You didn't win anything. You kind of just did your show and got your placing and loaded up and went home. And all I could think about is, why am I doing this? Why isn't there a show out there that is fun, that offers you something to show for what you just did, and that you can go home and be proud of what you did? So I started putting on horse shows. And my horse shows are called the gold mine shows. I don't know if you've heard of them or not, but they're primarily in the West Coast. Some of the biggest shows in the West Coast. I mean, I've had classes with over 100 people in a class because we focused on awards and we focused on giving back to the exhibitors, and that's all they want is something in their hand when they leave and to say that they had fun.
Yeah, I think, well, and, the whole objective is to have fun. Yes, I completely concur. I mean, like you kind of dabbled on that when we first started. The industry's lost that sense of chill and just lay back and this is have fun. I think around maybe 2019, 2020, within the last 4 to 5 years, I've got this feeling that the industry went from that to this heightened, very strenuous, very, very, very competitive, type of industry, which is not normally what anybody would associate it to have been prior to that. I mean, could you agree with that?
Yeah, it's kind of, and not to point fingers, I think it's just the way that it's evolved. It's kind of hard to break the shell and get into the little niches and the little groups where maybe you can go and have fun. I think it's not as welcoming to a newcomer as it should be. And if we don't welcome the newcomers, if we don't give them a place where they can feel good, I don't think they're going to want to come back. And somewhere along the way we've lost that, and we're just trying to get it back. And I think that the ranch horse discipline gives back to them. I think that offers a place where they can come and have fun, and their peers are cheering them on, or their peers are helping them out at the barn, loaning them tack or fixing their broken whatever. And that's what it used to be in the 70s, 60s, 70s. That's what horse showing used to be, where everybody was doing it together, but winning wasn't the end goal. Just enjoying your fellow exhibitors was what was the end goal.
Right. And that was lost a little bit. I feel like that has kind of been lost a little bit in the
I think
industry.
It has.
Yeah. Do you see that coming back? Do you see that coming back down? Because, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm the only person that kind of sees this. I feel like Yellowstone heightened the industry, and then now it's going to come back down.
Yeah, Yellowstone has not hurt us at all. I don't think. I think people got interested in that lifestyle and, the glamour of riding a horse and going out and gathering cattle. I think people kind of fell in love with that idea. I do see, I kind of follow what's being said on social media, and I kind of try to study where things are going and what people are asking for. I think that there's an awareness out there now of what needs to happen. It'll be interesting to see if it happens. There has to be people willing to step up and make it happen. And I keep going back to the ranch industry, but that's where it is happening. That's where people can go and feel comfortable. That's where people can go and have fun. And that's where I see it happening right now.
Yes, I completely agree. I almost lost my train of thought here for a second because I was going to ask you about something that I just saw. Oh, where did it go? Oh, yeah. So do you show any at all personally, or you decided to kind of sit that part out and just run it?
Let's see, I haven't shown for about 3 years. I lost my horse that I did show in 2021, and I haven't shown since. It just kind of took the wind out of my sails, but I did finally buy myself a young gelding, and I plan to start showing him again. I'm not finished showing. It's something that I want to still do. I'm competitive. I like the aspect of showing and, going out there and being competitive. So I'll be back out there, but when I lost my mare, it really set me back. I didn't really want to show anything because everything I did I compared to her, and you can't do that. But I'm ready to get back on a horse, and I'm excited about my little gelding, and he's 2, coming 3. So he's about ready to go play at the horse shows.
Well, I'm so sorry for your loss. I understand how you feel. It sucks. And when you've kind of had, like, I hate to say it, but when you've kind of had the best, nothing else really touches
It's
that.
hard to make that transition. Yeah, when you're comfortable with a horse, you know it inside out. It's hard to make that transition and do that pivot when that horse is suddenly gone.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it does. It does suck. Now let me ask you this question. As far as the actual horse shows are concerned, how long do they typically last? Do you just kind of try to keep it easy breezy weekend show, or do you have really long shows?
it varies. If it's a breed show, like a lot of my shows include paint and quarter horses. It's hard to do those shows in a weekend just because of all the new classes that have been added. There's a class for everything anymore. There's a ton of new walk jog classes, and of course they've added the whole spectrum of ranch classes. So it's hard to fit everything into a 2-day show. Most of the shows I do are at least 3 days and sometimes 4-day shows, just so that we can keep the days to a minimum. We don't like to do a marathon day and run till midnight. We like to be done and let people relax and have dinner and socialize. So in order to do that, we have to have a 3 to 4 day show.
Yeah, I
But
think
it
it's
works.
nice. Yeah, because you got some time in there to kind of spread it out, I guess, per se, and nobody wants to be rushed and pushed last minute and have to do, like, all of that,
Right, and you don't want to just be, go home at 11 or go back to the barn at 11 o'clock at night knowing you've got an early class the next day. It just wears people out. It wears the horses out. It wears the judges out. The judges deserve an easy 8 to 10 hour day as much as anybody else. So you kind of take all of that into perspective and try to schedule a show that gives everybody a little bit of downtime between classes and between days.
Well, I'm glad you just brought that up. That just made me think of Miss Heather, who is amazing,
Miss Heather.
by the way.
Yep.
That's kind of how we met. Well, and me, really, I was like rolling through things. Like the weirdest things happen. It's like horse people, you just see people with horses in their profile picture or something of that nature. You're like, oh, okay, we're friends now automatically.
Right. Right.
But she told me your name, and I was like, okay, I need to speak to this lady or whatever. And I actually had no idea that you were World Ranch Horse Association, which is even cooler. Now, I do want to ask you a couple of questions about the startup with that. So did you, when you started an association like you have, and you guys have been going for as long as you have, what was one of the biggest hurdles for you in getting something going like that?
I think the hardest part is, of course, you've got to do all the background paperwork, the file with the state, all of that stuff. But that's just time-consuming work. The hardest part, I think, for us that I felt like was the hardest was making people aware that we're here. I mean, it's hard to go out there and let everybody know that you're here without, it takes time, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is it takes time to actually hold events, put these events on, advertise before people start to realize, oh, there's a new game in town. There's some new shows to go to. Let's try this out. So it's, once they come and try it out, I would say 95% of them have loved it and stayed with it and brought their friends. and that's been the growth of it. I mean, we've seen some tremendous growth over the last 2 years. But the first 2 to 3 years were slow going, just a lot of boots on the ground and getting our name out there. So I think that probably was the hardest, the most time-consuming part of the process. But I feel like we're rolling now. People are calling us now to get approval and to put on WRHA shows, you know. So I think our hard days are over, hopefully, and we can just keep this forward momentum going and keep growing. We're moving little by little across the country and trying to get to the East Coast. We do have a charter in the Midwest that covers 11 states, a brand new charter. So that's going to be exciting to see it grow back there. So yeah, the hard part's over.
Yeah, just getting started is the hardest part. Like they say, you know, some people don't even get where they want to go because they never actually start. Because you're always going to have things you have to work through. You're going to have issues you fix. You're going to have that. That's just like, nobody is immune to that, no matter what you do. So,
yeah, I mean, it's like you said, nobody's immune to it. It's no matter what you're doing, there's going to be issues. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be brick walls that you've got to get through to get from step A to step B. But we've gotten through them. We've been successful so far, and the momentum is going in our direction, which is really cool.
Yes, and that is a great thing. Now, let me ask you this. Where would you like to see WRHA within the next 5-10 years? What are your kind of goals for the association that you would personally like to see happen?
Well, number one is growth. You know, we want to just keep growing. There's just so much potential, and there's so much more that we can offer. We're just barely dipping our toes in. We have ideas. We have goals. So we just need the growth so that we can put all of these ideas into action and actually see, you know, the benefits of it. I'd like to see us in all states across the country, plus Canada. I don't know about Alaska, but I think there's potential to do big things in Canada, which is exciting because this new Canadian ranch horse group is really excited to get on board with us. So the growth and just reaching more people across the country. Our really strong base is on the West Coast, which is good, but I don't want to stop on the West Coast. I want everybody to realize that we offer a lot to our members. We're here for our members, and we give back to the members a lot.
Well, Canada is going to be great because I don't think people realize how many people have horses in Canada. I mean, Canada has a lot of horse ownership up there, and they do a lot of stuff up there. So that's going to be really exciting.
They really do. They're very strong in Canada in the industry. I don't know that people realize that. I probably didn't realize it until I started WRHA, but I've seen a lot. We have exhibitors and members in Canada already. Some of them come down to the lower 48 and compete. So that's how I've been aware of them. But the Canadian equestrian industry is bigger and stronger than most people realize.
Yeah. I know it from because I sell 5-star pads, and we have a bunch of other accounts with other stuff, and we do quite a lot of business that goes to Canada. So I was clueless too until I started doing that, and I was like, what? Whoa, are you crazy?
Yeah.
And it is cool that we're able to do that from America and provide that into other countries. You know, some places aren't exactly like that, but just like the reining industry, they have things going on in Australia. Cutting has things in Australia and Italy. They have stuff overseas. So it's really cool to be able to learn that this stuff even exists outside of the country. Because sometimes you get a little insulated as a person and as a horse person. You're like, oh, it's not that big or whatever, and then you get to talking to people and looking at stuff, you're like, oh, wow, it is that big.
Yeah, and it's big in the other countries too. It's, like you said, the reining and the cutting is big in Italy and Mexico. Mexico's got a huge industry.
That is right. You are right. Mexico is big.
Yep.
Now, I do wanted to talk to you just a little bit about what you thought of the way the industry has gone, not just with COVID and just with Yellowstone, the way it's kind of heightened up and then kind of come back down. What do you think you would like, besides the reason why you started this whole association, what are some of the other things that you would like to see our industry improve on that you think would help us continue to grow or sustain where we are at as a whole, not just within ranch, but as a whole?
I think there's a lot of things that can be done, and none of them are going to be easy. We've talked about them. We've thought about them. We've brainstormed on where to start. It's going to be a rough road, but I really think that we need to focus on bringing in new people into the industry. And I think we need to really look at our youth. Something's happened in our culture that have taken families with children out of agriculture as a whole, much less horses. Agriculture, the farm way of life, the ranching way of life has kind of gone by the wayside, and people don't work as hard as they used to. I mean, when I grew up and we had a farm, we worked. It's hard work. And you don't see a lot of young people doing that anymore. So work ethic has changed. Horses are hard. Horses are a lot of work. And unless they are introduced to it at an early age, they don't want to put in the work. There's no passion for it. So I think we really have to focus on introducing it to new people, but really focusing on introducing it to young people, new young people, and show them how fun it can be and how rewarding it can be. Because I don't think people realize that. If you're not in the industry, if you don't have horses, you don't realize what you're missing. But we have to focus on getting that word out there. So I think that's going to be the hardest part. It's going to have to be done because we're losing a generation of horsemen, but I don't see us replacing that with a new generation. So that's where we're at, and it's the numbers aren't balancing anymore.
It is a level of hard work that I don't think a lot of people, it's just a different type of hard work.
Yep.
And I think it's something that it would help a lot of kids, and it might not be for some kids, which is okay. Either way, it's okay. But you're right. If we don't keep it going, we are going to lose out on an entire generation.
Yeah, we are. I mean, you'll see the older generation of horsemen are either retiring, becoming disabled, sick, whatever. We're losing that generation. And we've got to bring in a new generation to replace them. And like, we just had this conversation at our World Show this year because we saw so many people. There were people competing at our World Show who had never competed at a horse show before. So we are literally training a new generation of competitors. And we're thrilled that they chose our discipline to start. So training them is an honor to us. We're just happy they're there. And I think that's kind of got to be the mentality and the mindset, instead of being impatient because they don't know what we're doing. Welcome them and teach them, and they'll come back. So, like I said, it's going to be hard to do. It's going to be hard for the leaders of the industry to step back and what's the word I'm looking for? To step back and mentor the new people, but it's a necessity, and it's going to have to happen.
Yeah, because I feel like maybe the hard work is what will deter certain kids from wanting to go headfirst into the horse industry. Because we are kind of in.
Reward.
Do what?
There has to be a reward. They have to work hard, but they have to also get a reward. There's going to be a payoff at the end of it for them before they realize that this isn't so bad. This is pretty fun, you know?
Right, yeah. Well, and maybe that's the difference between the generations, because I remember we worked hard just for the sheer fact to be proud that we worked hard and not necessarily for the reward.
Right.
Whereas now what you just said kind of relates to more of this newer generation. They do need a reward, whereas people like me, we didn't need a reward. And so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What do you think?
Well, I'm not thrilled about it, because our reward was satisfaction that we did what we had to do, and
right,
we were proud of what we did. So I don't know that satisfaction is enough anymore. I don't know if it's the technology that has come into society, the everybody gets a ribbon mentality that's come into society, but it's harder to make people excited. It's harder to make people thrilled over whatever it is that they're getting anymore. It's more of a ho-hum deal, and they just move on. So we've got to give them something that makes them want to come back. Like there's got to be a carrot dangling out there in front of their face.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I agree with you. It's not something that you're excited to say, because like me and you can relate to doing it just for the sheer satisfaction of, look how hard we worked. Look at this. This looks great. Because, like we showed for a ribbon, whereas now it's weird for me to say this, like we didn't have nowhere near these like awards back in the day. Like you didn't have a payout like some of these payouts are and all of that kind of stuff. And I hate to sound like repetitive when I say back then, but it just kind of goes to show how much the industry has grown and what it has taken to keep it growing and keep it where it's at. Like there are so many new awards and so many things that you give out, like to support what you're saying. Now we have to have something to entice people to keep them in it and to stay in it and to keep it growing, or there's going to be no reason to even do it.
Exactly. I mean, look at the purses that some of the shows are offering. I mean, there's the $1 million this and the $1 million that. People are going for the big stuff now. It's not the ribbons anymore. It's not even the points anymore. Points don't mean what they used to on a horse. So it's what they can take away with them when it's all said and done. Whether we like it or not, that's the reality. So it's up to us, the industry, the people that are keeping things going, to make it sustainable and intriguing and appealing to the people that are supporting it, or they won't support us.
Yeah, and that's always touch and go. It's always, what do you do? What's the next best thing? I mean, who is able to actually kind of figure that out, I guess. So
yeah, it's a juggling act.
Do what?
I said it's a juggling act. It's a constantly changing necessity. You got to stay on top of it, or you go away.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to stay on top of it, or it does go away. Now, let me ask you this question. As far as the ranch aspect is concerned in the industry, there's not that many other places that actually do strictly ranch, so it's still, you guys are still kind of secluded. Do you foresee that to be a good thing for you guys, or do you foresee people kind of looking at it going, okay, well, we can start our own association now, Do you think that's going to be a problem for you to keep people where they're at and to keep your association growing?
I don't. There are a handful of associations out there. They're fairly well dispersed throughout the country and kind of settled in their region, so nobody's stepping on anybody's toes. But at the same time, I think at least for WRHA, I can speak for WRHA, we're supportive of these associations, and we're supportive of the people that are wanting to step in and do the hard work and build this industry. So it's not like a competition to us. We're all working for the same. I'm sure all of us have the same goals in mind, and that is to keep this industry going. So that's the way we look at it. And if there's an opportunity to partner with these associations or to collaborate and make something bigger and better, we're all in. I was surprised to see how many small, regional, like local type ranch horse clubs there are around the country. So there are some small ones, popping up here and there and putting on their little shows or their series of shows or whatever. But there's quite a population of ranch shows happening probably every weekend.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are. But I don't see a problem with more associations or more clubs popping up because like I said, we all are after the same thing. We all are passionate about the industry, and what we want is for the industry to keep going and to survive. So, yeah, we're here to make it better and do what we can to support each other.
Yeah, that's the only way to kind of, because, you get into, if you don't have respect for the other places, you get into like a war when it comes to having shows and all that kind of stuff. You actually just hurt each other instead of working together to make
it hurts everybody. It hurts the industry because people, they're not out there to war, to fight, to go through the drama. People are out there spending their money that they've worked hard for to have fun and enjoy their animals. So it just doesn't help anybody to be competitive and at war with another association. And the only way to make it grow is to make it a positive experience for everybody, regardless of who's putting the shows on or who's ahead. It doesn't matter. It's just we've got to keep the industry growing and we've got to keep it strong.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest threat from keeping the industry from growing?
Gosh, I think what I've noticed in the last probably 2 years, I think our economy is probably a huge threat, because when you start chipping into a family's income or disposable income, which there doesn't seem to be a lot of disposable income left anymore, but when you start taking that away from people, the horse part of it's going to go away. It's an expensive hobby, and that's probably going to be the first thing that goes away. So I really believe the economy is a huge threat to this industry. I think there's always going to be a certain number of people that aren't affected, that still will have the money to spend, but it's just going to make the industry smaller, which is not a good thing for anybody. And everything, let's face it, everything has gotten more expensive. Putting on a horse show is more expensive. Buying awards is more expensive. So if the show producers can't make ends meet, then the horse shows are going to go away. So it all, to me, it all boils down to our economy.
Yeah, I would have to agree, because hopefully, knock on wood, things turn around here in the next couple of years. I really hope so. because like we just said a minute ago, when people are going to, if you have to sit there and make somebody choose between eating that night or going to a horse show that's a hobby, they're going to choose food. I mean, it just,
Every time. Yep.
It just is what it is. Yes.
Yes.
So I completely agree with that. And I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think a lot of people, for one, it's almost a luxury hobby to have a horse. It really is.
It is a luxury hobby. I mean, I don't think it used to be as much, but recently it is a luxury. It's
Yeah.
very expensive. I mean, the price of feed has doubled. I happened to see a thread on Facebook about the size of horse shows dwindling and how small a lot of the shows, the big shows even, have gotten so small. And one person commented on there and said, I can barely even feed my horse, much less go to a horse show. And I don't think that's an isolated comment. I think so many people are feeling that same feeling about just struggling to get your horses fed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when people's grocery prices are skyrocketing, it's been like that. I don't think people maybe realize how bad the economy has been over the last couple of years because it's been pretty bad. So, and even if you're somebody who's too busy grinding and working to even like care about that kind of stuff or politics or any of that type of stuff, you will kind of feel it. Just like what you just said, putting on a horse show costs more, awards cost more, having a horse costs more. You have to keep all this stuff in mind, because people like y'all aren't doing this stuff for your health.
Exactly. It's hard work. It's hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing it for the satisfaction of giving exhibitors a place to go, have fun, and do something with their horse. I have more fun handing out awards than I ever had when I was showing. It's just one of those things that when you're making somebody's dreams come true, it's a good feeling. And we've done that over and over and over again.
I used to help, like when I wasn't able to show. When we used to go to shows when I was younger, like 4-H and stuff like that, I had this one show where my horse literally pulled her shoe off and then stepped right back on it, on the nail, and like just quicked herself. Is what we called it. So I couldn't show the whole weekend. But while we were already there, because my sister was showing, I got to help like ring steward and like help the judge run back and forth and do all that kind of good stuff.
Right.
And I will tell you something. That's hard work. If you have never done it,
it's hard work. I think every exhibitor should have to work at a horse show one time, and then they will understand.
Very hard work. I had a whole new appreciation for which I already had an idea of what it took to put on a horse show. But if you haven't ever done that, if you've only just shown and you think showing is hard work, try actually working in one and running around like a chicken with your head cut off and doing all that kind of stuff.
Changes. Yep.
Yes, it's a whole different ballgame. But I did get sportsmanship award for that.
Well, you deserved it, I'm sure.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying it for that. I'm just saying, like, it kind of just goes back to kind of what you were talking about earlier. The horse industry was kind of known for being with the camaraderie and everybody getting along and everybody being there for each other. It wasn't, you had a competition, yes, of course. Nobody pays this kind of money to not attempt to win. Give me a break.
Right,
but,
right.
It was inside of the arena. Outside of the arena, we were banding each other's horses' mane. We were shoveling each other's horses' stalls. We were helping families out. We were doing that kind of stuff. And the industry did kind of lose that a little bit. It almost got like, you could even sense the energy on Facebook. I mean, like, or you could just kind of sense, or on social media, you could sense just a real, like, we lost touch of why we even are doing what we're doing. We let it get
I think we did. And I think it spread, it spread throughout the industry. People, I don't even know what happened or why, but we certainly did lose touch with humanity, maybe, the humanity part of it. it's you go to a horse show to have fun, and you spend your time stressed and not having so much fun for whatever reason. It makes you sit back and think about, why am I doing this? Why did I spend this much money this weekend when I could have gone shopping or gone to the beach or whatever?
Right. Yeah. Think about it. Compare that. Sitting on a beach with a beer. Right. You can take a nap versus being in full attire with chaps and a hat and 85 degrees outside and horsehair and show sheen and, just think about that. You're asking people to do that in a non-fun environment? What?
Yeah. They won't come back very many more times. You're going to lose them eventually.
Right.
The smarter they get, the quicker they leave.
Right. I was just fixing to say, I've said this before, actually. You probably know what I'm talking about too. We did all of that for a ribbon. There was no money. There was no. We did it just for a ribbon, just to say we did it. And then now you've got people out there who are getting money, which is great. It's great. It's amazing that it's come this far. But what I'm trying to say is, like what you just said, if you want to keep the people in it, the people make it. If you don't have the people there to do it, then you have nothing.
That's exactly right. Oh, I was just going to say, I can't even tell you how many times I've stopped at one of the shows that I'm putting on, because what I have to tell all of my staff and my judges and whoever comes to help work the show is, we're here to have fun. So that's kind of the theme of our show, is we're going to have fun, all of us. So I every now and then I'll stop in the middle of the show. I'll just stop and look around and kind of get goosebumps when I look around and see all of these people out there on their horse with smiles on their faces, and they're having fun. I mean, somebody's got to set the tone for the environment at the horse show. And if the show staff and show management and show office doesn't set that tone, then it's not going to filter throughout the rest of the exhibitors, the barns, the spectators. You've got to set a tone of having fun and keep it, and make sure that you're working at that. Because, like I said, if it's not fun, they're going to find another place to go.
Yeah, and you know what? I could already sense out the gate, just initially talking to you, because I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people in the horse industry, not just talking about this podcast, but just in general. And you were very respectful. You were very nice. You had no idea who I was. You didn't know who this chick was sending you this message. And you're like, hey, I'm really sorry. We just got over this horse show, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Can we talk another day? And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Of course. I've reached out to people who knew people who have already done business with me for a couple of months, and this particular one lady just hung up and just was rude, a really weird little situation. And I thought to myself, okay, if you treat me that way, somebody that's trying to sponsor your club that you already know is perfectly legit, if you're going to treat me that way, there's no telling how you're going to treat a potential customer. That's what you have when you have a horse show.
Exactly. Yep. They are customers.
Yeah, if you're going to treat me that way, there's no telling how you're going to treat a potential rider, exhibitor, another company, or somebody else. And I was like, you know what? That's a blessing in disguise. We'll take my money elsewhere. And, I think the reason why I'm saying all of this is because I think with you can tell that you are about the growth. You are about the person, and that speaks volumes to me. And if we don't stay that way, if we don't keep that mindset, if we stay secluded and we stay in our own little comfort zone of the same people that come to the same shows, it's going to die.
Yeah, it is going to die. The handwriting's on the wall. So It's up to us, you, me, show producers, top trainers in the industry, every aspect of the industry. There are people responsible for keeping it going and for building it, strengthening it, whatever it takes. It's not a one-person job, but it's it's going to take all of us.
Yeah. So I give you props for that. I just admire that, and I respect that. I think it's really cool, and I think it speaks volumes for what you represent, you know, whether it's an event or a company or a barn or whatever have you. I just think that's really cool. So to me, I think that that speaks volumes for the future of World Ranch Horse Association, you know, to me personally, and I don't even have a horse, so it might not matter, but I'm just saying.
Well, I'm glad you think that. That means a lot to me.
Right, right. So now do you have any horses at all at your house that you just have to have, or none? You don't have any right now?
We have 4 horses at our house. We've had as many as 26.
Jesus
just
Christ.
a few short years ago. Yeah. We have a lot of it is just attrition, because some of them were just old retired horses, and gosh, in 2021 I think we lost 3 horses just to old age.
Oh.
So that's just the way it goes. But when you are a horse or any animal that lives at the Dobbins home, you're here forever. You're going to die here, and you're going to get buried here. So that's kind of how we do it here. But yeah, we're down to 4. They're all retired. They're all turned out, and they have a pretty cushy life. And my 2-year-old is in California. So I've leased him out for 2 years to a friend of mine who wanted to show him as a baby. And I knew that I didn't have the time to put into him for the last 2 years, so I let her lease him, and she's been playing with him, and he's just coming along great. I can't wait to get on him and do a little riding for myself.
That's cool, because, you know, I mean, like, I think once you hit a certain age as a horse girl or a horse person, whatever, maybe cowboys are different, but me personally, I think once you hit, like, 35 to almost 40, for me, it's like, you know what? We're going to let somebody else do this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hurt my body. I have nothing to prove.
Well, I think, and I have had the shatters and the breaks, and gosh, I shattered my knee a couple years ago on a horse deal. Yeah, she went one way, I went the other.
Ooh.
And I shattered my knee, so that but it does. I think we get smarter when we get older and realize that it's okay for somebody else to do this. I don't have anything to prove.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Let all them young kids sit there and try to be a bronc rider. I'm going to go to sleep.
Yep. Call me when it's done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's really cool what you're doing, and it's always cool to have them like at home, you know, out in the pasture and stuff like that. We don't have any more here at all, and I probably won't buy one. But I mean, I don't want to say never. You never say never, right?
Never say never.
Right, never say never. But
you might have one end up in your lap without even knowing it, and there you are. You're in the horse business again.
Right. Exactly my point. Next thing you know, you'll have a horse trailer and 3 more horses, and they're addictive, that's for sure. The whole sport,
they truly are.
All of it.
Yeah, they are.